us prideful Black brothers, we like to feel like we could take it all on and get it all done. It just doesn't. It doesn't always work out, and we end up taking on more and getting less done.
Welcome back to the podcast. I started this podcast as a way to help Black men in all aspects of our lives. Studies show on average we lose 2.8 years of our life when we're under heavy stress. And I think we can gain those 2.8 years back if we express ourselves healthily. Stick with me as I interview therapists, doctors, advocates, activists, and friends about how we can be better as Black men and as a Black community. If you're not subscribed to us on YouTube and following us on Instagram and TikTok, you'll definitely want to do that. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. All right, y'all, I'm here with Corey Lewis. He is the CEO and co-founder of One-on-One. Corey, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, man. It's been a long time coming. Super excited to be here. Love your work. Love what you're doing. For our community, and I know I'm sure you have a lot of Black men who watch this, but I'm sure there's some women who watch it too, taking some learnings from this, applying it to their relationships or whatever it may be. So just want to first and foremost thank you for having me. It's awesome to see you grow this platform in the way that you have, and really appreciate the work you're doing in the mental health community and the Black community, and continue to push that forward.
Absolutely, bro. I appreciate that, man. For real, man. It's definitely been a long time coming. I'm glad we could sit down and get this episode going, bro. So we were talking in the precursor to the episode a while back. We were talking about how you had issues dealing with anger as a child. So can you talk a little bit about that and like what that was like for you and how you eventually learned to deal with your anger? Because I feel like a lot of men sometimes we mask our emotions with anger. So there's a lot of men that are around that have anger issues, quote unquote, but I feel like it's a deeper issue than just anger. So I wanted to talk to you about like what you did specifically as a child to kind of deal with your anger.
So fortunately for me, I had a awesome, I grew up with an awesome support system. My mother, she was a single mother who worked her butt off to make sure me and my older brother, Steve, who is now my current chief of staff, were always good. And, I fortunately also had a very patient brother who I think deals with his own mental health issues himself, but also was always there for me as a big brother, as I had my outbursts, my tantrums, and a lot of the things that I dealt with. And, my mother was never over the top about dealing with my anger management. She was very welcoming of it, realizing I had a problem, something I couldn't control, something, that was just hard to manage, especially at a young age. So, for me, it was having that support system of people who understood what I was dealing with, who worked with me to move it forward, and who was able to kind of see it and personally diagnose it and make sure I got the help that was necessary. At an early age, my mother had a friend who was a mental performance coach, that she connected me with early. And, that person really helped me take the next step, see things a different way, operate a different way, and look at things a different way. And then football was really the icing on the cake as a outlet for me to really let a lot of my anger and aggression out that I dealt with on a consistent basis that led to a lot of the mental health issues at an early age. So I would say having that athletic outlet, I was a 3-sport athlete, and football, obviously a very aggressive sport, release any of the demons and anger I was dealing with, at a high level, but also, again, just having those people in my life who understood what I was dealing with, didn't write me off, when I did have my episodes. They were there for me as opposed to, separating themselves from me, which I think is important. People deal with things that are mental health based. If Kizzle, if you were on crutches, right, I would hold the door for you.
Right.
But people don't look at the injury to the brain the same way, which is what mental health issues are.
Ooh,
you know what I'm saying? Which is an interesting way to look at it, right? Like mental health issues are, whether you're diagnosed or not, it's an injury to the brain, and but we can't physically see it. So like we won't hold that door open for you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
So that's what it comes down to, and that's why mental health is so important for me it because we can't physically see it, it's hard. We're just like, oh man, Corey's tripping. Or
right.
Kizzle's tripping. He's
Yeah.
tripping. What's he on? Well, Kizzle, Corey, they may be going through something. Their brain is injured. Their mind, their mental state is injured. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So like we need to hold the door open for Kizzle and Corey and figure out why they're and there's ways to do it. And one of those ways is maybe separating from that person for a little bit because they're going through a lot and then approaching them a certain way, being like, hey bro, like, you just seem a little off, like I'm here for you. Or there's just different ways, obviously to do that. And fortunately for me, the people around me kept holding that door open for me, never wrote me off, and continued to help me move forward. And I took a lot of those things with me through my life journey that ultimately, helped me be a better man, leave anger management issues in my past and, continue to be the best version of me. So I still get moments where certain things trigger, but I have an awesome mental performance coach who keeps me at bay, keeps me on track. I'm obviously older and just ultimately have a much better control of my emotions as I continue to navigate through life.
Right. Yeah, man. I was gonna ask you too, do you deal with it still as an adult? Because I know as a child, like we can have coaches and therapists, but I feel like we're still gonna have those struggles that we had as a child still in adulthood, because those are still things that can potentially trigger us. So I'm glad you spoke on it and didn't make it seem like, something that you don't have to deal with at all. You still have to actively manage it, maybe not as much as when you were a child, but it's still something that you can potentially have triggers and still you need to figure out a route to
100%.
regulate. Yeah. So I was going to ask you, so you talked about mental performance coach, and I think I've heard T Drew say the same thing, right? And so I think that's definitely intentional, right? They're not a therapist. So what is the difference between like a therapist and a mental performance coach? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, they're very similar,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, in terms of they use science to help trigger, to help you move along in whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, mental performance coach, you probably heard of, high level athletes like the Tom Brady's of the world,
Mm-hmm.
use people on a consistent basis. It's basically a performance coach in general, and they basically, instead of like coming, when you think therapy, it's more from the emotional standpoint, whether it's relationship therapy or, sibling therapy or marriage counseling, like more along the lines of there's an issue, whether internally or externally with a significant other or a family member or whatever it may be. You're going to that person to, mostly vent and then have this therapist kind of work with you to work through that on an ongoing basis, where mental performance is more grounded around performance in life in terms
Mm-hmm.
of like how to unlock certain, certain beliefs and how to unlock certain things in order to move forward with work and move forward with certain goals that I've set for myself and move forward just and keep you in a positive state. So I would I would Kate, I would say a mental performance coach is more like a life coach. If I had to make
Mm.
more of a comparison,
Okay.
someone who understands what you're dealing with, maybe from an emotional side,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not showing up and having very, very specific conversations about a lot of the things therapists deal with. With very emotionally traumatized people come to them, whether from their relationships, to toxic relationships, or toxic work environments and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that we may touch on as we get to some of the bigger goals of our conversations, but they're more keeping me in line on staying on track, setting goals for myself, as a family man, as a entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a friend, as a son, and then keeping me on track and accountable for those goals. So I liken it to the difference between a physical therapist and a personal trainer.
Mm.
Like a physical therapist is more someone again who focuses on injuries and rehab, and that's kind of like how I look at a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Where like a personal trainer, he's more he's more focused on like strength and conditioning, getting you a program to get you ready for something. And that's the
Right.
same. That's how I look at a mental performance coach. So there's a huge difference between a physical therapist and a personal trainer. I think there's a difference between a therapist who's rehabbing you back to good health, and where a mental performance coach, I don't necessarily feel like I have, like I'm injured mentally. I obviously deal with issues. We all do. That's life. But I feel like I go to him because, I need that structure, to help me become a stronger individual and more well-rounded, similar
Right.
to like how a personal trainer, that's their goal, and someone to just hold me accountable to my bullshit.
Right. Man, so you have an interesting day-to-day life, I would say. I would say it's pretty interesting, right? So you're an entrepreneur, you're also a trainer, right?
Yep.
Right. So can you talk to me about how you balance both of those things on a day-to-day, like and I guess the role that your mental performance coach helps you or plays in that?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it's a lot. Sometimes you feel overextended and balancing it all, but the personal training side of what I do ladders right up into what we do at One and One.
Hmm.
Obviously, it's a decision that I made along with T. Drew. Like, hey, like continue training because it's part of One and One, right? We're about
Hmm.
1% better, and me as the acting CEO, and one of the co-founders, it makes sense for what we do. It drives people to the platform.
Right.
I can continue to champion the brand. I could continue to champion my personal brand as a trainer, as an expertise, as an expert, in the fitness and wellness space who continues to work with people in real life, but also take those learnings digitally through One and One and then reach more people around the world. So,
Right.
it all kind of ladders up and it works very cohesively. So there, it makes a lot of sense. And my mental performance coach, they help me balance it by, okay, avoiding overextension, avoiding burnout, you know, helping me be more efficient with my time, helping me avoid situations of uncomfortable conversations or avoid situations of just doing too much. I think
Right.
us all, especially us prideful Black brothers, we like to feel like we could take it all on and get it all done. It just doesn't. It doesn't always work out, and we end up taking on more and getting less done.
Mm.
And that's one of the things my mental performance coach has helped me kind of really focus on. I was always one of those people who's like screw sleep. I don't need sleep. Like, yes, you do need sleep. Like,
Yeah.
you can't perform if you ain't sleeping, my man. Like, what you doing? T.
Right.
Drew's always on me about that. All my friends are always on me. It's like team no sleep, etc. Like, that's not healthy. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, team no sleep is not a team that I want to be on anymore. It's not necessary. So there's a lot of things as you talk about. We're very prideful. Again, we like to take a lot on our plate and feel like we can empty that plate and clear that plate. But you know, I've just been much better about saying no. The power of no.
Mm. Yeah.
And is a true power and just saying no. And it's like if those people can't respect you saying no, then maybe they're not meant to be in your life anyway.
Right.
And that's something I've been a lot better about. I've been a lot better about, protecting my energy and my time.
Hmm.
A lot of people sometimes, I don't want to say yeah, I think they take a lot of, especially close friends, they take time for granted, your
Oh yeah,
personal
of
time.
course. Of course. Yeah.
They reach out, hey bro, hey Kizzle, man, I really want to start a podcast too. Like,
Hmm.
can you give me some tips?
Yeah.
Like, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm cool. It's not that I don't want to help you set that up. I'm
Hmm.
still figuring out myself. But,
Hmm.
we set that call up and then they show up 20 minutes late.
Oh my bro, don't
And,
get
I,
me don't have me going on a rant right now,
and,
bro.
I, and I'm like, okay, so I set my, and they're like, yo, I'm like, okay, see, this not gonna work.
This is the
I,
problem.
I carved out 30 minutes for you, and now
Hmm.
we started 20 minutes late. Now you
You
only
only
got
got, yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Now you got
Yeah.
10 minutes left. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And then they went like, so can we reschedule? I don't really feel like reschedule.
Yeah, I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like now I don't want to meet with you anymore because I feel like
No.
this is disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like I had to. So I was talking on a podcast the other day. I forgot who I was talking to, but they were anybody that's booked the episode for the podcast. I don't know if people read it or not, but there's a little description in there that I put in there, and I have something in
Yeah, I
bold.
read
Yeah,
it. I
yeah,
love
yeah,
it. I
right.
love it.
So I had some.
That's why when we didn't work out, I was like, Kizzle might not mess with me no more.
Nah, no, no, no,
I
no,
was
no.
like,
That wasn't it. Nah, right. So I had something. I have something in there, and this is a little backstory, right? So I have something in there. It says, if you show up more than 10 minutes late, I will never book a meeting with you ever again. Right. And I know people read that like, yo, this dude is crazy. Like, this dude is extreme. But the reason why I put it in there is because it's a boundary for me now. I didn't have it in there when I first started, and people would show up, like people wouldn't even show up. You know what I'm saying? Like, we would set up the precursor meeting so we could talk about the flow of the episode, and people wouldn't even show up. And I'm sitting there trying to rush through work meetings, rush back home, rush out of the gym, you know what I'm saying, to get there on time. And I get there and the person doesn't even show up. So for me, I was like, nah, this is disrespectful, right? I never reached out to
100%.
anybody and, said anything or anything like that. I just let it go. But my thought process was, I can't continue to allow this to happen if I'm prioritizing this time. I have to make people respect my time as much as I do. Right. And I think that's part of setting boundaries, is like, yo, I respect myself. I also respect you. And I know if I do this, if I do say yes to this, I'm either not going to be able to have the time to do it in the way that I would like to do it, or it's detrimental to myself. Right. And because I respect myself and I also respect you, I'm setting this boundary so that we don't run into a situation like that. Right. And like, I tell people, man, like, you got to be able to say no. So I'm glad you were talking about that, because I also have had people who are like, yo, bro, I want to do this. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll set some time aside for you. And then
Yeah, yeah,
forget.
because
Yeah.
they
Mm-hmm.
forget, they don't take it serious.
Right.
They're not taking notes, and
Mm-hmm.
they're asking you the same questions again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate because you like at the end of the day, there's only so many hours in a day.
Right.
And between like spending time with mom, spending time with your significant other if you have one, spending time with your friends, and like
Mm-hmm.
those relationships and things take time. So when you
Right.
bring those other relationships and meetings and all these other stuff that maybe whether it's a personal meeting or a business meeting, those things fill your cup, right?
Right.
I always talk about we have this cup that we fill, and then family, friends, business meetings, networking, et cetera, et cetera. You start to fill that cup.
Mm-hmm.
That cup starts to overflow, and that water starts to spill out of that cup. That's when you're agitated very easily, and that's when you
Mm-hmm.
start to potentially have bad interactions with people. To your point,
Mm-hmm.
and not being able to give your best self to people all the time because of other external errors. And that's what my mental performance coach, he's like, look, the power of no. And like those people can't understand your boundaries that you set for yourself, to for your own personal mental health and your own self-care. Then maybe let those people remove themselves from your life. That's okay. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And we
Right.
can't help everybody. We're not Superman.
Yeah.
We're not superheroes as much as we want to be.
Yeah.
And people can't respect that time. Or I tell some people I could talk in 3 weeks. I got a heavy push right now. This is just not a good month, or it's not a good couple weeks. Let's talk in 3 weeks, and if that's good for you, let's do it.
Mm.
That looks free. So I'm cool with pushing stuff out a month. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also like, hey, I'm also now been much better. Like, hey, can we discuss this in an email? Like, send me what you want to talk
Oh
about.
my, yeah. Yeah.
Like, just overview. Like, I don't feel like we need to set a time. Like,
Yeah.
let's just overview. Then that way I can get to it in my time, and then blah blah blah. Like, I'm happy to talk about it, but let's do it in a form of communication that doesn't need to be like
Right.
we don't need to set time, because
Right.
setting time means like you're pulling away from other things that I could be doing to personally,
Help some.
push things I'm working on ahead.
Right.
And that's and then now if those emails ladder up to a conversation because it seems like we're at that point, then great.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm been much better about people with inbound. Hey, can I present this to you? I'm like, hey, just summarize it in an email.
Yeah.
I'll decide if it's worth a call.
Right, right. And you know what the good thing about that is that you're working within what works for you. Like, you found a process that works for you, and now you're you're navigating your relationships and the requests that you get through that process. I feel like a lot of us don't have processes for how we deal with incoming requests from other people, right? Like we don't even have processes for what we would potentially do to help or not help. And so it can make it harder for when we're setting boundaries, because sometimes people feel like, oh, I'm just saying no, and I don't even, I can't really direct them any other way, or I can't really help them in any other situation. It's like,
Right.
yeah, that's part of it. But sometimes that's okay too. Like it's okay to just be like, yeah, you know what? I don't got it right now. Right. With
Yeah.
no follow-up. Yeah. Like,
Yep. Or like potentially, I'm cool with connecting people, other people. Like, I don't think I can help you. Maybe this person can.
mm-hmm,
Or like
mm-hmm,
to your point, I don't think I can help you on this.
right, right,
And like check back in with me, maybe at a later date. Doesn't mean I can never help you with this. I just don't have the bandwidth
right
to
now. Yeah.
give you right now. Like I'm protecting my own inner peace, because if I do work on this, if I want to give you my best self. I want to give you my best effort.
Right.
And if I can't, then what's the point of having me look at it or work on it or help you with it anyway?
Right, man. So we were talking, right? And you talked about one-on-one and you being an entrepreneur, right? So I asked T Drew this, I believe. I want to ask you it as well. So what are three of the biggest lessons that you feel like you've learned on this journey?
Man, a lot of lessons. Number
Mm-hmm.
one, can't trust people as far as you can throw them.
Oh man,
Uh,
really? That's how you feel?
yeah, man. A lot of in life and in business, like
Mm-hmm.
you gotta let. I like trust me. I love working with people. I love interacting with people, but
Mm-hmm.
like you just always got to be weary of
Mm-hmm.
potentially ulterior motives, or
Yeah.
maybe just like just sometimes people just take advantage of
Uh-huh.
your
Kindness.
kindness,
Yeah. Yep.
kindness, and
Mm-hmm.
like willingness to
To help.
accept people and to help or whatever. And people just take advantage of that, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit too much. And obviously you hear some of the horror stories about horrible bosses and mean bosses, but in some ways I see why people maybe are excuse my just dicks, because they
Mm-hmm.
just as they're like, I own this business and like I'm going to protect it. I'm going to protect it by any means, and
Right.
I'm going to create that level of respect through fear. I don't want to
Mm.
be a feared boss or a feared coworker, or I guess not how I operate. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people take advantage of the open door policy, and being kind and understanding of people's situations and what they're going through.
Mm.
Unfortunately, again, not everyone has your best interests, and a lot of people are self-serving, at
Mm-hmm.
heart.
Mm-hmm.
They could interview very well, or everything could sound great, and then a couple months in, or even a couple years in, they can just
Flip the
completely flip
switch.
the switch. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so that's number one. And there's ways to navigate that, and there's also processes to kind of hedge for that. You never
Yeah.
really know, but there's just through trial and error, you just try to find ways to work with the best and the right people.
Right.
I think because of that, unfortunately, it makes you it makes you try to take on more by yourself and wear multiple hats.
Yeah, I can see how that could happen because I do that sometimes too. I don't even want to go ahead, but go ahead. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. You don't want to delegate as much, because you're like, man, I can't trust nobody, especially if you
Yeah.
had a bad experience. You're like,
Yeah.
you just spend all this time, money, energy into this person who maybe, whether they screw you over, or they don't get the job done, or they don't perform well, or they just do some bad actor, bad character stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuff sets you back. But
Mm-hmm.
as my dad would tell me, like, this is part of the game.
Right.
It's part of failing. It's part of succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, whether it's with relationships or people, or reaching your goals. Like, failing along the way is going to happen. And a lot of people don't even realize that they're just they give up right before they were getting ready to reach that goal they've been striving for. You know what
Man,
I'm saying?
for real.
So like, stop giving up too soon, because I guarantee you're probably a lot closer to the goal than you expect.
Man.
So
Yeah. I
that's
want to
that's Yeah. Good.
Now, I was gonna say I wanted to add on to that because I always tell this story, and I'll let you get into the other two things that you've learned. I always tell the story about whenever we talk about failure, I always think about the journey to express yourself, Black man, right? Like I'm nowhere where I want to be, but I feel like I'm at a point now where I can kind of see where things can go, which is a good thing, right? But it wasn't always like this, right? Like I first started mental health advocacy in 2017, right? Nobody knew about me. Nobody knew of the organization that I started. It was called a Kizzle brand. And I started that in 2017. I did that for 3 years. I think we talked about this, right, in the precursors to the episode, right? I did that for 3 years, 2017 and 2020. I was going to different schools. I was driving. I wasn't getting paid for anything. I was always in a deficit every year. I wasn't making revenue from any drops of merch or anything. Like I was giving away a lot of my revenue to like help out with charities and stuff. And I was just going around doing workshops and talks in different organizations and talking to kids and all that kind of stuff because I had passion for it. And I felt like that's what I was supposed to be doing. I did that for 3 years, no real traction. I never even cracked over 1,000 followers on Instagram, right? Like if you go look at the Kizzle brand Instagram right now, it's still not even over. I think it's barely over 900. You know what I'm saying? And then the pandemic happens, right? I start going to therapy. I start talking about therapy openly on my story, and my
Yeah,
bro was like, "Yo,
I think you just went through a breakup.
yeah," and I had just went through the breakup, right? Like I just got cheated on, right? So that's the reason why I went to therapy. And then when I started getting into therapy and learning all these things, started talking about it on my Instagram story. One of my bros was in my ear. Every time he saw it on my story, he was like, "Bro, start a podcast." I was like, "Bro, I'm not starting no damn podcast." Because in my head, I'm like, "Yo, I just failed for 3 years with a Killzer brand. What do you think a podcast is going to do right now? Like nobody wants to listen to what I have to say. They barely listened to me when I was going out to orgs and all these different things. So I thought what I had to say it didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So that was my thought process. And eventually I had to get out of that mindset. Like I had to get to the point where it's like, it doesn't matter if people care about what you have to say. You have something important that other people relate to. So just say it anyway. And if it fails, quote unquote, then at least you have something tangible that you can show your kids about lessons that you learned when you were younger and you were their age. So that was my thought process. Like I'm gonna help out kids, my kids, all that kind of stuff, and give them something like that they can pull from. And then it turned into all of this. And I just kept pivoting and just iterating. And I found a process that worked and I was disciplined enough to stick with it. Right. But a lot of people, like what you were saying, like they get to that point where it's like, if you make a pivot, it could fail, but if you've been failing anyway, it is what it is. You can try something else,
Yeah.
or you could just decide to stop. And for me, it was like, nah, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to just try this thing out, give it my all. It is what it is. If it fails, then it is what it is. But that's what ended up happening. I started the podcast, started the Instagram page. And then from there, I figured out how to get to 1,000 followers, right? And then from 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Once I got to 4,000, the following was so potent. Like it was really just a bunch of Black men and Black women that really mess with the Black men's mental health movement that I made one post that it cracked me to 10,000 from there, which was, I still remember that post. It was Black man, here are 7 ways you can find therapy without insurance. I remember that post like the back of my hand because people were asking me for it. And I'm like, I don't really feel like writing this, man. That's another gem is like, listen to your community. Listen to people when they tell you what they want and just do it.
100%.
And just do it. That's what I've really been doing. Most of my posts and my content come from questions or comments or whatever that people have. And I'm just like, you know what? This is something that people keep asking me about, or this is something that this person asked me about. If it's enough for one person to DM you about it, that means probably like 5 to 10 people have that same question. Because if one person DM'd you about it, then that means he just was a person that was brave enough or courageous enough that actually wanted to answer right then and there. Some people have the question, they're just like, all right, whatever. But yeah, like man.
Go ahead. Our teachers used to tell us in class, right? Mm-hmm. Be afraid to ask. There's no such thing as a dumb question because I guarantee you somebody else in the classroom who has the same question, they just may be afraid to ask it.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And especially on social media, when you think about it, right? Like a classroom, probably like maybe 60 people max. Social media is millions of people, right? It's depending on the reach that you get. Right. Exactly. Right. So, man. So, yeah, I just wanted to give that story, but can you please, you can go into the rest of like the 2 other lessons that you learned in terms of like entrepreneurship along this journey?
Communication. Mm-hmm. Communication, obviously, that's a lesson that anyone should learn in life. Man, there's so many things that I realized could have been avoided just by communicating. And that's again goes back to relationships and in business. But man, Like there's so many things I wish I could go back to, or so many situations I could point to where, if that person would have just communicated a certain way, we could have avoided that,
Right.
or
Right.
like, even myself, if I would have potentially communicated a little bit better, like we could have avoided that, or,
Right.
avoided that failure, or avoided the situation that ultimately ended up coming about from not communicating enough. So, I always express, T. Drew and I both, we always express over communication because, again,
Mm.
there's no such thing as a bad question. So,
Right.
like, if you can't figure something out and you're trying to figure it out, like, don't just not express it, or don't just let it fall at the wayside and then we hear about it months later, or, and then now we have a problem.
Right.
Let's over communicate, just send me 10 emails or whatever.
Right.
Like, that's how I treat my friends too. Like, if I don't respond, doesn't mean I don't mess with you. Like, don't take it personal.
Yeah.
Like, unless I tell you to, like, don't text me ever again, like, just keep texting me. It doesn't,
Right.
don't take it personal. Like, I may be doing an interview, I may be working, I may
Right.
have read it and just forgot. Like,
Right. Yeah.
we're so, and that's a problem with society and our life that we live in. There's so many ways to reach us that people just take everything so personal. Like,
Mm-hmm.
man, I hit you on IG. Like, I get 100 of DMs a day. I may have read it and kept it moving. Like,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe my assistant opened it. I don't know what happened. Doesn't mean I don't mess with you.
Right.
So it's just like, trust me, I will communicate if I don't want to talk to you.
Right.
I
Yeah.
have no problem. I
Mm-hmm.
get it. There are people who just like silently move funny and do things weird, but
Yeah.
I try to always express communication, because whether it's in life or work, growing one-on-one, communication has been so key. That's
Right.
why I think Teacher and I work so well together, because we just over communicate. Even uncomfortable conversations, like, we have them and we just keep it moving, because a lot of
Right.
people avoid uncomfortable conversations, and then those conversations that should have been had end up leading to something that could be very detrimental to your company and to what you're
Right.
trying to build.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, man. Nah, I definitely agree. It's funny that you said over communication, because that's one of the pillars that my girl and I build our relationship on. It's like we actually said the same exact thing, over communicate, right? And what we're really saying is like, yo, if something's going on, we really just want to know, get ahead of it. Like you said, like those uncomfortable or those difficult conversations. It's important to have those and have a person that you feel in business and in relationships that you feel comfortable having those conversations with, man. Because if you don't feel comfortable having those conversations, then you guys have a bigger problem at hand, to be honest. Because you're gonna have to have them, regardless of what's going on. Is you're gonna eventually have a space that you're in where you're going to have uncomfortable, difficult conversations.
Exactly. It's necessary. You just got to work through it. I mean, think about when we were kids, right? We used to break the glass while mom's was at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you was all worried and mad. Mom's gonna, bring the belt out or whatever.
Yeah.
But you may have got a spanking, but you got
Mm-hmm.
through it, right? Like,
Yeah.
we like we still here.
Right.
Like, what's the in reality? Like, yeah, what's the worst that could happen, man?
Right.
Like, I guarantee you, like, yes, it's gonna be uncomfortable for a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of leads to the third thing. Like, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like reality of
Mm-hmm.
the situation. Like, you just have to being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and in that uncomfortable zone. And again, whether in life or in business, like, that's what helps you move the needle, because
Right.
that's when your breakthroughs happen. Not when
Yeah.
things are going well. Like,
Yeah.
you don't think about lifting weights, right? You don't get stronger because you can just do 20 reps. You get
Right.
stronger when you like fight through the last 2 reps.
Yeah.
It gets really uncomfortable. That's
Mm-hmm.
when you build strength. That's when you see results. The
Yeah.
same thing that the same thing applies in life and in business. Like, we're working through those uncomfortable moments of uncertainty, of not knowing if this is going to work out, of people potentially doing you wrong, of things not going well, generating no revenue. Like,
Mm-hmm.
those are the moments that really make or break you. And
Right.
that's ultimately, that's what I've been able to really get good at, is just, okay, this is not great, but I'm gonna stay cool, and I'm gonna go to work.
Right.
head down, figure it out. Like no need to panic. Let's not dwell on the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Let's figure out what the solution is.
Yeah.
And yeah, that solution may take some time to pan things out and smooth things out to get to the next step, but like that's okay. So, in combination with that third one, like all news is good news. So, that's like another policy that Tidro and I have. All news is good news because yes, if it's bad news, how can it be good news? Because again, that leads back to the communication factor. Because if you bring it to us, especially if you bring it to us, hey, this happened, but here's the solution that I think to fix it. Like I always try to tell the people that work for me and work for us, like if you can, if you do have a problem, try to follow it up with a solution. Like try to figure out the solution first before you just bring the problem and just throw it on T. Drew and I's desk. Like let's try to, like, if you absolutely can, you truly need help to figure out like what the solution is, and we need to have like a team power to figure that out, then all good. But please try to solutions. That's it. Let's not dwell on the issues that we're having and sit there and sulk in it. Let's figure the solutions out first. And there's always a solution. Let's just get there.
Right.
People just like to throw problems on your desk and panic, and then like, okay, hey, this and this happened, but I'm checking out for the day. We'll get to it tomorrow. What you mean I can get to it tomorrow? Like you just told me that our website is breached, and like, what is going on? What do you mean we get to it tomorrow?
We gotta get to that now. Yeah,
get to that now. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have that sense of urgency, and unfortunately, when you're building your own business,
get into it.
Yeah, people don't have as much skin in the game as you do.
Yeah,
I understand it. So it is a balance in trying to manage that, manage those relationships properly. We try to do our best to give a lot of the people in our company some skin in the game with our company as we drive this vision forward. So, and I love doing right by people. It stems from what we do at 1&1 and trying to help people in general as we continue to build our community. But look, we got a long way to go. But those are some of the lessons that I've learned and that I've continued to implement and, continue to understand and just get better with to push myself forward as an entrepreneur, push the 1&1 brand forward as a company and just continue to move the needle in all the positive ways in the mental, fitness, health, and wellness space.
Absolutely, man. So you talked about 3 lessons. You can't trust people as much as you think you can. Right. Over communication and then be comfortable being uncomfortable. And then you added a 4th one, which is basically all news is good news. Okay. That's solid, bro. That's a solid list right there. I like that. So for those of y'all that are going to be looking at the YouTube and figuring out like, what the heck happened to so the camera battery just went out. It's all good. So I wanted to ask you, so we just talked about the 3 lessons that you learned in entrepreneurship, but there was something that you taught me in our precursor to the actual episode. You were talking about the 3 Ds of devotion, right? And how they help you to build better habits. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yep. So the 3D, I'm actually doing a keynote speech on this in
dope.
September.
Dope.
I have a whole presentation that I could share with you, but
I would love to have it.
Yeah. The 3 Ds of devotion and building better habits. So, how I came up with this is obviously in working with lots of people in the fitness, health and wellness space. Like, yes, I'm a personal trainer, but in a lot of ways, I'm like a life coach by nature because it's so much more than just like, okay, here's your program. Let's get stronger. Let's get, like, of course, I have some clients like that, but I work with a lot of women who whether deal with a lot of emotions, or just deal with a lot in life. And, I just realized that like there's so much more than me just building a program for them to help them get their fitness and physical results. But we build a relationship as like friends and I'm more than just a fitness coach to them. I'm their friend, I'm their life coach, I'm the person they vent to. And, what I realized is that there's no one size fits all approach and everyone has their own approach, so what helps them, get out of their funk to move the needle or whatever, right? Like the person who is potentially 100 pounds overweight, like they didn't just get there by chance. Like they're just dealing with something maybe like that. They just haven't been able to get themselves to the necessary place of, you know, being disciplined enough to, you know, take care of themselves. And that's okay. So how can we figure out, how can we give you over the hump, right?
Right.
So for me, I use this 3Ds of devotion and building better habits, you know, and what I mean by that, the first D is dreadfulness, right? We're always on some part of this spectrum in anything that we do. And people can disagree as they listen to this,
Mhm.
but I think they will agree. So the first, it's dreadfulness, discipline, delight. That's the 3Ds of devotion. I'm going to explain. So the dreadfulness stage, right? Let's just use fitness since that's what I do and that's the topic we're on. Or actually, this podcast is about mental health. So
Mhm.
let's use that as an example. Dreadfulness. Black men, we dislike getting help. That's just
Mhm.
natural, right? Like
Mhm.
it's stigmatized. We think we're soft if we get help, if we see a therapist, whatever. So we dread it. We don't want to go to therapy. We don't want to seek help. We don't want to express our pain. We don't want to express our feelings. So we dread, you know, facing our true emotions and like expressing it to other people. And that's
Mhm.
what, you know, your whole podcast is about. Express yourself, Black man.
Right.
We struggle expressing ourselves. That's why this podcast exists,
Right.
because we truly struggle with that. We dread it. It
Mhm.
sucks for us. Like we're so prideful, you know, and it just in our community we're so like you know, sometimes again we're just, it's looked at as soft or whatever it may be when you express your emotions. So you dread it. But when you actually start to make the effort to do it, and you know, they say it takes 30 days to build a habit, right?
Mhm.
Like to build habits. So like let's say every day you start to, maybe whether that expression is just writing out what you're feeling, that's a form of expression. Maybe you didn't,
Mhm.
maybe you're not ready to share it with somebody yet, you know. So it's like, okay, every day you start to write that out, or maybe every other day, one day you write it out, or maybe it's just every day you find a way to express how you're feeling, whether it's writing, talking to a friend, talking to a family member, but like you make it like you work through that dreadfulness stage by making it a habit.
Right.
And once you're in that habit stage, that's when you're in the discipline stage. Now
Mhm.
that discipline stage, the reason why it's a discipline is because in that dreadful stage, you turned it into a habit by working on it on a consistent basis for, you know, however long. Let's just call it 30 days because that's just scientifically what they say. So now
Mhm.
you move into that discipline stage to where like, you know, it's just one of those things that you don't feel like your day is complete until you do it. You know, so it's not, you're not necessarily in the delight stage where you just do it because it's a true passion, it's something that makes you happy, but it's a discipline. You know,
Right.
it's a discipline that you do because it's just a part of your life and you instilled it into it. So you've moved to that discipline stage. And then before you know it, you know, I usually say at the 90-day mark, that discipline starts to turn into a delight
Mhm.
because you start to see the results, right?
Mm.
And where delight comes from results, you know,
Mhm.
like what makes us happy, succeeding, results, achieving things. So like maybe you start to express your feelings more and more, and you just start to and, and you start to see the results of like having better relationships with people, communicating with people better, like more things happening for you, you know. And that's typically when you have that breakthrough is when it's like, man, put the work in. Man, I used to hate expressing myself. Now I
Mhm.
love it because you see the results. You start to reap what you sow, and
Right.
that's the awesome benefit. You know, and like catering back to fitness, right? I've worked with people where we lost 200 pounds together. You know, and they're
Mm.
awesome now, 100 plus pounds, etc. Like we
Mhm.
didn't just jump into 60-minute sessions. Like
Yeah.
I had them just walk. Like they hated working out. They hated eating right. Right.
Yeah.
They didn't just wake up, you know, 200 pounds, 150 pounds overweight. Like it took a lot of emotional strain and they hated it. They dreaded
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
So I would just have them show up. Let's walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Mini missions. Let's walk on the
Mm.
treadmill for 10 minutes. Let's just go for a walk. Okay, 10 minutes. Like that feels good, right? Let's do
Mhm.
15. Let's do
Mhm.
20. Okay, now you're ready to, let's lift some weights today. You know, let's not
Mhm.
overdo it. Okay, you're coming every day. You're doing something every day. Okay, let's implement this. Now it's a discipline. You're just doing it because it's a part of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, boom, you're starting to, and then when does it become a delight? Oh, snap. Corey, man, I lost 20 pounds. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you get that dopamine effect. Man,
Mm-hmm.
Corey, I'm down 30. I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to get those texts. Corey, I'm
Mm-hmm.
down 50. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Corey, I'm
Yeah.
down 60. Like it's like those results start to come in, and all of a sudden you're in that delight stage, and it's just the rest is history. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, it doesn't mean there's a lot of people who reach goals and then just relapse.
And
You know what I'm
regress. Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And regress because they reached it and they feel like
It
they
is what it
reached the
is now.
ultimate goal and
Yeah.
like they just relapse. It doesn't mean once you get to the delight stage, like there's not still work to be done. Like you
Yeah.
gotta work to maintain it. And it might even, life happens. Sometimes
Yeah.
you're super busy and you start to be like, man, I can't work out, man. It's another busy day. You start to chalk it up,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may be. But, try to get yourself, at least if you can stay in that discipline stage for the majority of the part,
Mm-hmm.
majority of whatever you're working towards, like it's very easy to get back to that delight stage, and I'm the same. Like I don't, as a trainer, I have a trainer because like I don't always love working out. It's a
Mm.
discipline for me, but like I pay someone to come kick my ass because like I don't even want to think about it. I don't. I know if I set that hour, that person, I'm paying more for the accountability than the knowledge. I know how to train. I know how to program. Obviously, I do it for other people,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm paying more for the accountability and not have to think. I don't want
Right.
to have to think. I just, I know the right things to say. It's like a mental performance coach, right? If
Right.
all the if information alone could solve the issues in this world, Google would have already figured it out,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
All
Yeah.
the information in the world is on Google. You can type anything in Google and find what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But if information alone solved the problems that exist in this world, Google would have already, not have decreased a lot of our issues.
Right.
But it doesn't, right? And like one of the biggest statistics that stand out for me and like why one is so important is like 80% of people who start their fitness journey fail. Like
Mm.
that's a crazy statistic. So it's
Yeah.
like, how can we move that needle to 79%,
Right.
78, 75%, right? And that's what we're so passionate about, So, and I would imagine the same is probably for it's up there as well in the mental health community, right?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Who venture down that path, and some people started and unfortunately in their lives early, So, and that's why like I love what your friend told you to keep going because man, you probably didn't even know the people you were impacting. They may not have reached out, but like you were probably touching a lot of people, inspiring a lot of people in your journey with your messaging, with your words that you probably had no idea you were touching. So I'm glad you kept it going. And that's one of the things that, Tidro and I talk about, like, we're not everybody's flavor and that's okay. You can hit that unfollow button. But like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, if you want to mute me, you're not gonna hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
It's a social platform. You can control, like, I love the people who are like, why am I like, they'll complain about like seeing a post or like,
Oh
they're like,
man.
they're like
Yeah.
hate on their friends or whatever. And I'm like, then just unfollow them. Like,
Yeah.
just
Mm-hmm.
unfollow, mute them. There's so many actions you can take to not even see it. But like, why are we hating on it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And unfortunately in a black community, sometimes what holds us back is that crabs in the barrel mentality of
Mm.
like, man, like, Kizzle too good, or like, man, what's he on type deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what you mean was he on? He's just like, there's been times where like my friends will try to, I'm like, he's just trying to get the word out there about mental health. What's wrong with that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, like they start backtracking. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why are you? I'm confused. Like, are you envious because like you wanted to do something, but you care too much about what everybody thinks, so you don't do it? So
Mm-hmm.
you just you
Yo,
just you just express your insecurities by putting other people down, and like
it's
unfortunately, that's
projection.
like it's
Yeah.
projection. It's like, and I can't stand it because it's like we could do so much greater things if we just like support each other more, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
and this is a little off topic, but like I look
No,
at
it's
the
not. You
WNBA.
good. Yeah, go
You know what
ahead.
I mean? Like like what I'm about to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like I look at the WNBA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of awesome women friends. Obviously I love my mother, my like WNBA, right? Like we always hear women, they're like, man, WNBA, there's our equality and all that good stuff. And I agree. But
Mm-hmm.
like, why y'all not showing up to the games?
Right. Right.
Like what?
Yeah. That's the biggest.
Like
That's the way to make it happen for real. It's a
yo,
revenue thing.
if y'all
Yeah.
watched the game, if y'all watched the games and showed up and packed
Mm,
all the stadiums out to support the women that you want to get equality, they have no choice.
right.
Like we can't sit on a table and want equality and want these things if we're not willing to help each other. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to make the analogy of like too often us black people want so much for our community, but we're not willing to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's crazy to me. And like we're quick to put each other down before helping each other out. And you know, and that's just unfortunately hold us back sometimes. And that's why I love to connect with people like you who seem to express themselves properly and you know want to see us advance and work together to do some dope stuff, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not my dad told me a long time ago, like, man, you know, 20% of 100 million is a lot more than 100% of nothing. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? So like how do I build something with people, have a piece of it, but like we grow something that's so special that, you know, we get rich together. We have a lot of success together. Like I'd rather that. And I like winning alone is not winning to me. Like I like winning
Right.
with people, especially if I can win with people that look like me. I
Yeah.
won, you know,
Yeah.
that's all I want. I don't want to succeed and be at the top alone, or I
That's
want to
whack.
win with yeah, like I want to win with T Drew. I want to have a toast with my man, toast with Kizzle,
Mm-hmm.
like and say like, man, we did it. And then like,
Mm-hmm.
how do we keep doing it? And how do we pass this down to other people that can do it, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
that want to do it? And like, how do we show this way for other people coming up who may be looking for you know, something to follow, something to look to, you know, to keep them going. You know, that's
Yeah.
what's important. That's what's truly important to me.
Absolutely, man. That's what I respect about you and T Drew, man, because I had the initial episode with T Drew before. And I could just tell how genuine you guys are, even with the position that you guys are in, right? Like sometimes a lot of people will lose sight of, that, right? Which is like trying to give back, trying to help, trying to be available, right? And I know how busy you guys are. So for you to also make the time for one, that the podcast episode, also the precursor to the episode, just making time to be available. I appreciate that, man. And then also you guys being willing to give the game, right? Not withholding stuff. And I think that's very important because I've reached out to T Drew before because I had some business stuff that I wanted to talk to him about. And I was just like, damn, man, like I'm running into like some of the growing pains of like trying to figure things out with the brand and scaling and figuring out if I want to pull people in and like bring people on and all these different kind of things. And I can't really, no disrespect to my friend group, but a lot of people aren't in the position that I'm in. So I can't really talk to my friends as much as I can't really get as much insight from them. But y'all that are running a business, right? I can
Yeah.
bounce these questions off of y'all. And I bounced the question off of T Drew and he came back. He was like, yo, this is what you potentially could do. We had a meeting, we talked about it. I know he made time, and that meant a lot to me because it's like, yo, I know how much y'all time is. I know how valuable that time is. So I appreciate y'all being open to that, man. And this has
Yeah,
definitely been a dope episode. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say let's, you know, I think there's more that we can do together. I think you're in. Are you in New York?
Yeah, I am. Not right
Yeah,
now, but yeah, I am. I am in general. Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, I think we should definitely, you know, when are you back in New York?
probably like in a few weeks.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
I
we
think
can
it'd be
link.
great. Yeah, let's link up in person.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's more stuff that we could do together. You know, we love working with people like yourself who are obviously, you know, preaching the same things that we're preaching and even in different ways. Yeah, we love to do more with you, collaborate, you know, provide whatever exposure that we can to what you're doing. Just, you know, continue to push what we're trying to do forward. I think there's huge opportunity for us to do some things together, man. And same thing.
Absolutely.
If you need any advice or help,
Mm-hmm.
fitness, business, whatever,
Yeah,
just let me know.
absolutely.
We continue to get it right.
Absolutely. I love that, man. So please tell the people before we end the episode, tell the people where they can find you, where they can find one-on-one, how they can support all that good stuff.
Yeah, Big C 1-in-1. That's my Instagram. You know, our website is oneinonelife.com. You know, that's our website, our content engine to help you become 1% better mentally and physically. 1-in-1 stands for one mind and one body. You know, that's all we got, right? You know, and at the end of the day, one day at a time, one step at a time. You know, 1% better each day. So I know I just do a lot of ones at you, but the ultimate goal is with 1-in-1 is to create a community and also provide solutions that, you know, help you become a better version of yourself mentally and physically, one day at a time, one step at a time. You know, that's the ultimate goal. So that's what it's about. Kizzle, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Much love, much respect for you and everything that you have going on and what you're doing. Just stay on the lookout for Express Yourself, Black Man, and Kizzle, and 1-in-1 to definitely do more things together.
Absolutely, Corey. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate the time.
All right, my man. Have a great evening. Enjoy yourself wherever you're at. And thank you, my brother.
You too, man. Take it easy. Yo, I'm excited, man. We're currently building the exclusive community and it's going to have so many dope features. We're partnering with a Black organization to offer low-cost therapy to each member of the exclusive community. And when I say low cost, I mean that members will be able to get therapy sessions for less than $50, regardless of who they are and where they are. We're also going to have free ebooks and courses, including both the Hurting to Healing ebook and the therapy ebook I'm currently writing, live podcast episodes where you'll be able to interact with the guest and I in real time, community forums, exclusive merch, and categorized content so you can easily find information that may be useful to you. So go to expressyourselfblackman.com/therapy and register for early access. It's literally a 30-second process. I just need your name, email, and social media handle to make sure you get access before anyone else. And before I dip, I just want to thank you for your support. Without people like you, none of this would be possible. I can't wait to see you when we launch.
Sometimes I know you feel like you ain't got nobody to speak to. Shoulder to lean on somebody you could preach to. No, you need to hear it, my brother, I love you. We got way too much to live for.